my guest who is joining us via an audio phone call is Prince Joel Bisong. He's the co-founder for GML Farms. So can you hear me now, Prince Joel Bisong?
Yeah, clearly.
Okay, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. So welcome to the program. How are you doing this morning? Okay, so let's just get right into it. Okay, that's good to hear also. Now, so how has the current insecurity situation in Nigeria impacted agricultural production and food supply chains?
Morning.
Yes, good morning.
It's my pleasure to be on set with you this morning. My name is Prince Joel Bisong, the co-founder for GML Farms. Insecurity in Nigeria, as it affects farmers, has been a front burner conversation that is always coming up whenever we have. The truth remains that the disruption in food prices, disruption in access to farming communities is all a function of the insecurity in the country. And so for all Nigeria, in my opinion, national security is the number one cause in Nigeria. So without wasting much time, the disruption in food prices, disruption in down to the level of insecurity that we currently face as a country.
Okay. So this has affected everything in the country, not just the agricultural sector. As I mentioned earlier on, agriculture contributes 20% to our GDP in this country. So with the disruptions caused by insecurity, it's affecting the production outputs for agriculture at the moment. Now, that being said, now, how has food inflation affected consumer behavior in terms of spending patterns in Nigeria? I know apart from the fact that farmers are facing issues trying to bring their the produce from the farm to the marketplace, and it leads to issues of because there's insecurity issues. There's also the problem of having the produce not getting to the market on time, and then the people are being faced with scarcity of this goods. So now, how has this food inflation affected consumer behavior and spending patterns in Nigeria?
Okay, so yesterday I saw a post on social media on how to prepare a stew for rice. Somebody was saying blend plenty of onions, blend plenty of what they call bell pepper, and the thing was a bit funny. In place of tomato, as of yesterday, a basket of tomato was going for about 100,000 naira. The big basket of tomatoes. So people are now improvising. Consumers are now thinking of how can they complement what they have. But the truth is, inflation is real now. We are at the crossroad. It's high, and consumers are facing the heat of this. Prices of food across some of this northern Nigeria, prices for vegetables, prices for rice, grains, and all of that. You could see that a bag of rice goes for over 70,000 naira in some parts of the country. 60,000 in some parts of the country. So this is really impacting on the consumer. The minimum wage has not changed. So the same amount you receive every other day, you now have to spend more in buying basic. Imagine families that have husband, wife, and 3 children. They have to go to school. They have to pay their children school fees. They have to, other things they need to do in the running of the home. And so the inflation is really biting hard on the consumer and is affecting the way they eat and the way they buy.
Okay, yes, it will definitely affect them. Okay, now let's take a step back now. Let's look at this from another perspective now. Okay, we know now. I just want to get as an expert farmer, what are the challenges farmers are facing due to security problems, and how can they deal with these issues?
Okay, so like I said in my opening statement, insecurity is one of the leading cause of food insecurity in Nigeria. For example, farmers need to pay ransom before they go to farm. You know, you just can't wake up, especially in places like the Middle East. I mean, Northeast there. You just can't wake up for production for you to be able to cultivate. And during harvest, you need to also pay ransom. Otherwise, you get into those farm areas, you either killed or kidnapped. So farmers have to pay ransom, and this goes ahead to increase your pay ransom. You got to pay what they call their local vigilantes that help to provide security. And so sometimes farmers had to go the extra mile to pay for these services, and this impacts on the overall cost of production. Like you know, when cost of production is high in anywhere in the world, I mean prices just go up. So you see that insecurity is not helping. Number two, of insecurity, there is rural urban migration. Now, the manpower, the young people that were supposed to be able to do the work, they are running away for their dear lives. So you see, there is limited as a shortage of manpower to be able to do the work. The other thing is access to inputs. Nobody wants to go and die. Yeah, so extension service cannot go into those communities to supply inputs to them. The roads are not safe. So it's a total it's a bad situation for the country, and not just for the country, but the farmers who are the breadwinners who supply the basic requirement for any economy. I mean, like I used to say to sometimes, the first line of national security is food security, and the people who are responsible for food security is the farmer. You know, you can see a doctor maybe once in a month, maybe 3 times in a day. Your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner, these are all farmers, you know, area of focus. So it's high time that government and all the area, the area of security, whether it's private security or the national security, as the case may be. So what do you have?
Okay, then. Okay. Thank you for that, Prince Joel. Okay, now let's picture a scenario. For example, now imagine a farmer that is ready to harvest his crops, but fear grips him, and he's worried: will he be able to get to his farm safely? Will he be able to harvest his crops safely and bring it to the marketplace? Now, that being said, now what should the government do to fix both the security issues and the high food prices? Your suggestions on this, Prince Joel?
Yeah, government has to be more highly intentional about the issue of security. You know, as a president, one of the oaths you saw during your inauguration and the properties and defend the constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So his assignment, number one assignment as a leader, a president, is the security of lives and properties. So government must not politicize security. The politics around the security in Nigeria is getting out of control. They just need to do something beyond the conventional, beyond lip service. So I'm just going to just list out a few things that I think they already know. Maybe we'll just say it for them just to know. Government has to invest massively in security security outreach. Take a case study in Kaduna, in Kano State. Kano is enjoying relative security in terms of farming communities, access road to some of these markets. Why? Because the former governor, I mean, the person of Mr. Kwankwaso, invested heavily in security cameras. The security cameras these days, there are lots of cameras that got images. And these cameras were properly invested in that. And so you see that there's confusion, there's insecurity in Kaduna, there's insecurity in Katsina that has more commercial activities. But Kanu now, because the government in this security apparatus, the there's relative peace. So government has to begin to invest massively in rural security. Rural security is key. Number two, we have about 10,000. I mean, one policeman to about 10,000 persons, which is way, way, way below, higher than what the international committee require of 100% to one police officer. So they need to invest in, training and empowering, retraining is manpower, increasing also, and then encourage the local policing, like states where you have local policing in place. It helps to checkmate the activities. For example, where we work, we have a farm in a remote area in Australia state called Apantaki. Atlantis service. Then we also do our PRO. So they provide primary security in terms of theft, in terms of those simple everyday security that threats to the farm. But the other security matters which has to be in place. There is just a limit to what an individual can do to protect his investment, to protect his life. Government has to come up. I support to step in and provide that leadership in terms of the security that a state needs to have.
Okay. Yeah, so the government needs to increase police presence all over the affected states, particularly in northern Nigeria in the country. Okay, so that being said now, what are the economic implications of these disruptions on food prices and availability?
Okay, see that once the place is insecure, there is dislodgement of these farming communities. A whole community that is supposed to produce, say, soybean or produce maize. As we speak to you, I was in an IDP camp somewhere here in the FCT, and you see a lot of women and children and young people who are supposed to be in their communities doing what they know how to do. They are already in the FCT here and being taken care of. So what that means is that the map in the next 6 months is not there. So government is going to begin to go into importation of the food that we are going to need in the country, which puts a lot of pressure on our forex. The other thing is the impact of insecurity is that even these other communities where farmers can still farm, the man who is, because his life is at risk. Then finally, logistic, the movement of goods and services from point A to point B is also at risk. There are days you have to go, for example, a place like Imo State. You can't travel with your perishable goods on a Monday to Imo State. So if you are coming from Lagos and you are supposed to go into Imo and your vehicle has a problem on the Sunday, that means you are going to see the loss in value of that product. And so we can say this over and over again. Insecurity, if not treated, is going to cause a continuous, which will also in turn affect the inflation negatively. So these things, they are not rocket science. We feel that government has to do more. It's time we leave politics and start providing the.
Okay, I understand you. Yes, but I believe yes. Okay, you're still talking. Okay, have you concluded, Prince Joel? Okay. Okay, so now how can private sector companies such as food processors and distributors try to cushion the effects of this insecurity on their businesses?
You telling a child to the vehicle is all to push the vehicle.
Can you hear me,
has
Prince
a
Joel?
responsibility to. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you now. Yes.
So I believe in the research. There are things that is exclusive to government to handle. In advanced communities like in America and Europe, one of the things that government does effectively is the provision of security, because small businesses, uh, SMEs, and all of those things, they will try better when there is. Nigerians are very hardworking people. All we are asking for is we should be able to move from point A to point B without us losing our lives. And these affect whether you are in production, whether you are in processing, whether you are in manufacturing, or you're in branding. Now, so the private sector, they are ready to work. They are ready to put in the investment. They are ready to roll out the money. But no private sector wants to put his money in a place where he knows that it will be disrupted by insecurity. Nobody wants to do that. And so you cannot, at the private level, there are certain things you cannot do. All right, if something happens in your farm, you must bring in the police first. There are things you cannot do.
Okay.
And so the government has to, we are still pushing it back to government. Government is the big brother when it comes to the economy. And from the big brother perspective, they must bring that big push to encourage the private sector, the private sector to come in and be able to do their business in a sane environment. So this is my position. This is what I think.
Okay.
Over to you, Lovina.
Okay. Now, how can I just want to know now, still on technology now, to address this insecurity issue? Yes, I understand what you're saying. You pretty much you have put the bulk of all of this on the government, and yes, increasing our security, increasing police presence in states that have been particularly volatile and under attacks from bandits and other terrorists. So now, what opportunities exist for innovation and investment in agricultural technology and logistics to improve on food security?
Okay, so that's a very big question, an intelligent one as well. Nigeria still has enormous investment opportunities, irrespective of the insecurity. Um, so there is a lot of opportunities for people to come in. At the technological level, like if you come to our farm center, we have security cameras mounted almost everywhere, and they are solar enabled. So it means that whether there is power supply or not, these cameras are able to snap pictures and send to us straight. And you could have access, anybody anywhere in the world can see that file, tell what is happening. These are innovations that we can use. Now at the secondary level, you're able to monitor the activities in your farm. You're able to raise signals in case there is an invasion or kind of. That is at the secondary level. So these technologies are there, and I think they are more needed at a time like this. Also, in those of them in the logistics and travels, today there are cameras that you could use in your vehicle. I mean, traceability that came up. All these innovations came as a result of some of these disruptions that we're talking about. So you see people in the logistics, they're able to tell, okay, this is where your products are, this is where they left, these are origin, and all of those things. This is also helping to improve, in the food and in the food supply chain. But Lovina, I still maintain that the primary security that will draw all this technological innovation still rests in the hands of government. And government here means whether it's a federal or the state or the local government, they have a lot to do because they control the police, they control the army, they control the air force, they control even these bandits and all these headers that we talk about. These things are controlled by them. One time, former head of state said, if security lasts in the country more than 24 hours, government is responsible. So we cannot shy away from these things. At the secondary level, private sectors can do so much, but the primary security that will enable and drive sustainable change in the food sector still revolves around this, the goodwill of our government.
Okay, but I also want to add that it's not proven that the government is controlling whoever these herders or whoever these bandits are. I mean, do you have proof of what you're saying? So we can't really just put that out there. We need to actually back up what we're saying with some evidence. There should be some proof.
A former head of state, should I mention his name?
No,
General
there's no
Sani
need for
Abacha
that.
made it clearly. General Sani Abacha said, if insecurity that lasts for more than 24 hours, government is behind it. So I'm not putting something that is out of place. This is clearly stated there.
Okay. Well, that being said, I believe insecurity is something, I mean, terrorist activities is something that is affecting countries all over the world. It's not just Nigeria alone that is affected by this. So now what international best practices can Nigeria learn from in addressing the impact of insecurity on our food systems here in Nigeria?
Well, there are conventions at the international level. All right, there are conventions. For example, the SDG has said that by 2030, zero hunger and zero poverty. And so their policy and some of the G7, the big seven, their donations and contributions that they have allotted for this. And one of it is to help developing states to have enough resources to combat terrorism and other insecurity. So, as a country, we need to have a policy framework, all right, local policy framework that will help. Because when these international fundings are coming, there are KPIs they want to see. There are things they want to see for them to be able to, allow these fundings to flow. So internationally, like I said, there are conventions like the one that happened in the Abuja Declaration. There are some that happened in the Malabo, all geared to food security. And one of the primary things there is that developing nations should be able to have a security architecture that will be able to guarantee the safety of their lives, the lives and properties of their people. Information sharing, which is also very important in driving security gains. These are the things that we must build good policy framework around these things, such that when an international donor looks at this thing, so, okay, this country is a progressive country and we want to support them. So this is my what I can say regarding this.
Okay. Okay, now I still want to know now. Yes, I know we have talked about this, how the government needs to increase police presence, military presence in these affected communities all over Nigeria now. So now how can other stakeholders ensure that smallholder farmers, I mean, these people in the rural communities are very critical to Nigeria's food security. So how can all stakeholders ensure that the smallholder farmers are supported and protected during this challenging time? As the co-founder of GML, I'm quite sure you encounter a lot of farmers in the rural areas. Are there ways you also address them in how they could protect themselves, how they could also form groups to also protect themselves during this period?
Yes, so as a private sector, from a private sector perspective, our study has been that we go to these rural communities, we buy the farmlands and then engage to work. And one of these lands, we ensure that two things we put in place for security. One is the camera that we install in the farm. Number two, we provide perimeter fencing. So every of our farm zone is already fenced. There's water. There is a farmhouse. There is medical aid that we put in place. So when these rural farmers come in, first and foremost, there is a perimeter fencing that protects us from invaders. Um, Herders and farmers will always meet. Like where we are, there are several cattle coming towards that place. They have the right to also come and graze. Now, as a farmer has, planted maize or grains. If the farm is fenced, as the case may be, the header knows that, okay, this is a restricted area. It doesn't just go in there. So what we've done, we've encouraged, give us your land, we fenced it, we provide water, we provide everything that you need, we train you people. So this is what we do. And so private sector can, like Power Grid and other private sector driven companies can also, they are doing a lot in that regard. And so the opportunity is there for more private sector, an inclusive private sector driven solution to help the farmers in terms of awareness, education, provide educational materials, provision of farming fields, which is a big challenge to farmers. There's what they call capital insecurity. They don't have the necessary funding. So that drives them into things. So if the private sector can look into, provision of, this farm inputs under a contractual arrangement, that okay, when you do our farm, you do the farm, we give you the inputs, during the sale, we buy it off from you, we take from you, and then the farmer sees, okay, there's profit in this for me, and he's calm. And these are simple things the private sector can look at, and I know that the organizations in Nigeria, private sector driven, that are already doing this. There is still room for it. The agriculture sector is large enough to contain wherever, and so we keep encouraging that we will not allow the whatever is happening right now, this insecurity to deter us. We still go to our farm every day. We still face these people. We negotiate with them. We talk to their chiefs. We talk to their leaders. We do our PR, and all of that. We are like them.
Okay.
So that gives us a lot of access to get to places and do our work.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Prince Joel Bisong. That's well said and very well done. Great job you're doing in this for these communities and farmers in these rural areas. Okay, so now let's talk about the short-term and long-term solutions for this. And now long-term and short-term solutions. Now, how can they be implemented to address food inflation in Nigeria?
Okay, for short-term solutions, I think government to start looking at subsidizing the production value chain in terms of farm inputs. The bag of fertilizer is going for about 48,000 naira now. Seeds. 1 kg of a hybrid maize is going for 1,000 naira. So when you see the cost of production is so high, the farmer is now vulnerable, becomes a victim of high cost of production. So at the interim, government can provide subsidize the value chain. The other thing is pricing. How some people have said the minimum a farmer can sell, others have said the maximum a farmer can sell. So these two angles, government can look at it and say, okay, if you sell below so price because of climate change or because of insecurity, government will do the markup for you. So these are short-term solutions that can be implemented. Subsidize the process and then provide premium market to the farmer. That will do a lot. On the long term, government can look at investment, infrastructural development in our rural communities so that the manpower can return back to their farms. Build massive infrastructure, security infrastructure, road network, schools and the likes. That way, the drive from the rural to the urban will reduce. And then, at the long run, you begin to see that more people they now feel safe and they want to go back to their communities to do their farms. So this is my contribution to that effect.
Okay, thank you very much, Prince Joel Bisong, for joining us this morning on Market Insights. Prince Joel Bisong is the co-founder for GML Farms. It's been a pleasure having you on the program to discuss the impacts of insecurity on food inflation in Nigeria. Many thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you, Lovella. It's always a pleasure being with you. Thank you so much, and God bless.
Okay. Okay, now let's look at the official selling rate and the parallel market rates for the dollars, the pound sterling, and the euro this morning. So the official selling rate at for the dollars is 1,313 naira to $1. That's at the CBN rate, and at the parallel market rate, it's 1,510 naira to $1. The pound sterling at the CBN rate is 1,706 naira to 1 pound sterling. The parallel market rate is 1,920 naira to 1 pound sterling. And for the euro, it's 1,457 naira to 1 euro. And the parallel market rate is 1,610 naira to 1 euro. So those are our money market figures this morning for the pound sterling, the euro, and the dollar. Okay, so it's been great discussing this issue with my guest, Prince Joel Bisong. And like he said, the government needs to spread out our security operatives to different states, especially states that have been very volatile this past few weeks. So addressing insecurity is vital to ensuring a safe passage for farmers that will increase investments in rural infrastructure, and fostering stability in the affected regions are crucial steps. Now, by working together, that's both the private sector and the government, we can build a more secure and food secure Nigeria in collaboration with government policies and private sector innovation. So I believe together, working as a team, we can achieve the goal. So many thanks for watching Market Insights this morning. I am your host, Lavina Emma.